On this, I'm joined this evening by Sanjay Hegde, Senior Advocate in the Supreme Court, and lawyer Deshrata Nigam. Welcome to both of you, and thank you so much for joining us on Beyond the Headlines. Mr. Hegde, let me begin with your comment. Why do you think there has been such an increase recently in the use of many of these sections of the law, some of which I mentioned, specifically against online comments, whether it's on different social media platforms? What is so bothersome about these online comments?
See, what happens with online comments is that there is not only the power of speech, but there's also the power of reach. If you are on a popular platform, somebody picks up that comment, it carries much further than what was ordinarily said in a public forum over a loudspeaker, or which was reported in one newspaper which had limited editions in one area, in one language. Today, politicians live on the online media. They measure their popularity based on online media matrix, and they are very cautious about what is said about them. I mean, whether it's a politician, whether it's a company, everybody is very careful of their image on online media. So you even have powerful companies trying to shut down specific tweets or specific posts saying that this is defamatory, or any of the other sections are applied. The only difference between commenting on a company and a politician is that a company may drag you to court, but a politician will first have you arrested, then you have to, you or somebody on your behalf has to run to court for bail, and the politician can ensure that the process becomes the punishment. It is more than anything else. It is the power of arrest which is misused much more through all these sections, whether it is sedition, whether it is not so much defamation, but 153A and all those sections.
Yeah. So 153A is the one which is utilized the most, promoting enmity between groups. Mr. Nigam, why do you think this has become the favorite tool? Is it because it is very broad-based in its definition, and which is why it can be implemented fairly easily?
Tamanna, let us be very clear. Every set of rights come with their corresponding duties and responsibilities. Hence, the Supreme Court has clearly said that there can be reasonable restrictions on your fundamental rights, be that as it may. But I agree with Mr. Hegde that the speech and reach about social media, which is quite vast. And certainly when a politician is criticized, and especially on political matters and within the framework of decency, then I don't think they need to be booked or arrested under any circumstances. We saw it in Maharashtra, we saw it recently in Punjab also, and various other states. So I would rather look at state-wise rather than, since law and order is a state subject, I would go state-wise and then try to find out as to why it is happening. Maharashtra, in fact, earlier the Uddhav Thackeray's and his son was criticized, then they were put behind bars. Then it happened that Sharad Pawar is being criticized, and on political matters, then they are being arrested and held. So I don't think there is any reason for lodging any criminal cases against them.
So that you agree, I'm sure, Mr. Nigam, is across states. And we did quite a detailed presentation at the outset of this conversation, that this is something that all parties, all governments seem to be very excited to use. And another trend, actually, I want your view on this, Mr. Nigam. Look at the modus operandi. So they're supporters of that leader who file the cases because they are the aggrieved party, one assumes, that they have felt bad, or their sensibilities have been hurt because of these comments. So they come forward as the aggrieved party. It's not usually the leader themselves. So why do you think that this is the modus operandi that's being used?
See, the fact is leaders certainly cannot come right in the front, and because otherwise the cases would be registered against them. It happened with a BJP spokesperson in Bombay who was slapped by Pawar people. But the fact remains they remain in the background, and the followers generally, come in the front. And some of the followers may be very overactive as well, which may not have any instructions from their leaders, but they take the law in their own hand. And these people have to be taken to task. And certainly, we are seeing a trend, and this trend needs to be curbed. But the fact remains, there are various examples when people said these are false cases, but when they went to the court did not give them bail, despite the fact that they tried at many levels. So you have to go case by case basis, and certainly political comments will be there. And if anybody makes up, adverse comments politically, there is no reason to lodge a criminal case against that person.
Okay, so politically is one, personal is one. I mean, what confounds me here, Mr. Hegde, is that the nature of the beast as far as social media is concerned, especially some platforms, it's not all rainbows and sunshine, right? It is a platform where there is a lot of criticism against famous people, against groups of people. It's an area where people come and put out their views. Those views might not always be positive or happy. Someone's always got angst against someone else. So why this distinction? By this measure, there should be many, many more cases, some of them filed by normal citizens as well, who could be offended by anything.
See, a normal citizen who gets offended will remain offended, but he may not go to court. But when a politician's protege files a case in court, he earns brownie points with the politician. He says, look, I'm more loyal than any of the others. Now you give me a ticket, or you give me a contract, or things like that. As long as there is a motive which benefits the complainant, these things will happen. Very often the politician himself might have the grace to laugh off things. I'm sure that the Prime Minister of India did not really authorize what happened in Assam. Then the Assam police turn up, pick up Jignesh Mawani from Gujarat, take him all the way to Assam, and then like barely has he got bail in one matter, that another case is filed saying that, look, this man assaulted a policewoman in custody. And then the court there had to say that this is a false and cooked up case. Then the Assam Chief Minister says that, oh, no, now the policewoman in question, she wants to file an appeal. So the thing is that if you deny political mileage to those who launch these cases or who seek to take political advantage from them, then to a certain extent, all this abuse will stop. But if you say, oh, so-and-so is hurt because he is on my side, I am hurt too. Let us all flock together. Let us make an example of this man. Let us have a whole drama in court. Then this thing will go on. Frankly, we have many more important cases in court rather than, oh, look at it, he said mean things about me, or she said mean things about me. This is all luxury litigation.
So that's one aspect, that you're clogging up the courts with luxury litigation. But I also want to understand what this means for the common man, for Indian citizens who live in a democracy where you have the right to give your point of view. I'm not saying you should defame someone or you should promote enmity between groups, but anyone will agree that the laws are being applied very liberally. Mr. Nigam, what does this mean for people? Does this mean that people will start self-censoring? Everyone is going to be worried now. An average student today who might be very active on social media is going to think 10 times on what to put out in terms of their view. They're first going to think about which state they live in. They're going to think about, the person who they want to criticize, how powerful or not powerful they are, all of these things before they actually put out their view. Isn't that chilling as far as free speech is concerned?
Tamanna, in fact, I think India is one of the most democratic countries one has come across, where even the violation of the law is not enforced. People go scot-free. There is a Lakshman Rekha, and we all have to respect that, whether students or non-students. And for that purpose, if you recall, the ethics rules of 2021, May 2021 came into force, where self-regulation of social media platforms came into the picture. And they were asked to self-regulate yourself. And government didn't want to, actually regulate them. That was a soft regulation that had come into the picture because a lot of things were going on. I clearly remember because I was involved in a case against the Twitter, which I am still contesting in the Supreme Court on behalf of the party. They were promoting tweets, anti-India tweets on behalf of Sikh for Justice, which has been, banned organization as a terrorist organization by the Tribunal of a Delhi High Court. And still they were doing it. And they were promoted tweets. That means they were making money out of it and still promoting anti-India tweets. Such kind of, content on the social media platform has to be curbed at the outset.
But where is the Lakshman
punished.
Rekha? Mr. Nigam, where is the Lakshman Rekha? Is this Lakshman Rekha you speak about well defined in law? Or is this arbitrary or is this subjective? Because that really is important, right? The person on the other side has to decide whether the offense or the offense that the person who tweeted or posted intends is enough to cause that degree of harm. Someone has to take that call.
Yes, certainly. Now, let me tell you what you've talked about, the law in its true spirit, letter and spirit, and its misuse, the two distinct things. When, say, for example, the case of sedition, it's a pre-British law. However, the wordings of the law continues to be that of British period. That is, anybody who says anything against the government is to be slapped with 124A. However, in 1962, the Supreme Court read down that law and said anybody who promotes violence or disturbs, peace and law and order, they will be slapped with 124A, not merely speaking against the government. And the policemen continued to read 124A because the wordings were never changed. And therefore, the parliament now has to apply its mind how to modify those wordings and to bring in any exceptions to prevent its misuse.
Right, but
misuse
my point is if the intent is to misuse, and this is what I said in the beginning, if the intent is to misuse, then will changing the wordings of 124A be enough? If there's a plethora of laws. Mr. Hegde, come in on this. Don't we have a plethora of laws? If not this, then the other. If not this, then the other. If the intent is to put someone in their place for daring to speak out, then we have enough laws, don't we?
Oh, absolutely. And if we don't have anything, we also have the laws of preventive detention. You can preventively detain somebody for a crime that he may or may not commit, because he or she has a propensity to commit crime. So therefore, you detain in them also. We are actually, to my mind, a society which has too many laws, where restraint or reasonable restrictions eat up the content of the right itself. The policeman is not concerned with whether you spoke rightly or wrongly. The policeman is concerned with if your speech is likely to cause an uproar and is likely to bring mobs out into the street. Therefore, the best thing is to first lock you up, arrest you, tell the mob, now you disperse, I have taken the man in custody, and then let the court sort it out. What we really have in this country is a system of thanedar justice. The politician can tell the Home Secretary, look, this man is talking too much. The Home Secretary in turn will tell the Chief of Police. The police will transmit it right down to the Thana. Pick up the man, invoke several sections, and then say, okay, now you fight for bail. By the time he comes out in 6 months, a year or two, he will have learned his lesson. And even if he or she refuses to learn the lesson, the rest of the family then comes in saying that we managed to get you out once.
No, and you're making an example of certain people, right? The idea is to make an example of people so that no one else dares. Now, useful information. Let's give our viewers some useful information at the end of this. Is there any respite in law? If anyone faces such a situation, what do they do? What is the first step? What rights do you have? Let me start with Mr. Nigam on this.
Oh, certainly. If anybody has been wrongly arrested, he can approach the court of law. First thing is to apply bail. And then prima facie from the FIR, he has to show that there is no case made out against him. And therefore, that's the first step. And if the case continues and if he gets the bail, he has got to face the trial. Let me tell you, misuse is a problem all over the world. Police are known for their application of law. Even dowry laws, domestic laws, violence laws are being misused. But the fact remains, we have to check that misuse. There is no two ways about it. And how to check it is through a court system, legal system, and the police reforms. The training of the police, half of the policemen who apply the law don't even know the law. And the police reforms is a necessity of the day. And secondly, the court system, the delay in the court system really kills the entire spirit of a man who has been wrongly accused or wrongly arrested. And therefore, we require our system, the legal system, the judicial system, and the police system to undergo a huge reforms so that the misuse can be minimized. You cannot eliminate when there is a human element to it, but it can be minimized to a very large extent.
Can it be minimized unless there is now a retaliatory action, either from the courts or, as Mr. Hegde said, that people who file such cases in order to please their political masters should not be encouraged? In fact, it should be very clear that this is not what is required. Mr. Hegde, but to the question of what can a common man do, what can a citizen do if they feel that they have been wrongly implicated for something that they have posted online or for a comment that they've made?
Well, they have no other recourse but the courts, and the courts are what they are. They are long, painful, dilatory, everything. The common man is best advised to stay off social media or to only post platitudes like the government is great, the government is doing an excellent job, post good morning messages and flowers, and talk only about things like whether veg biryani exists or not. Beyond that, if you say something or the other, you are very likely to offend someone in power. And unless you're prepared to take the consequences, do not go on social media. If you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen.
That's pessimistic, to say the least. You're basically saying you can't
that's
speak.
what things have come to. That's what things have come to.
You agree with that, Mr. Nigam?
As long if the government of the day were to make an appropriate commitment to the people of India, saying that, look, the Prime Minister has said that there should be laughter. We will encourage jokes, even at our own expense, and that we will not prosecute. And if there is a false prosecution or an overzealous prosecution, if there is an apology from the top, the message will go all the way down. But no, we are in a command and control structure.
No, but everyone is doing it now. Everyone is doing it. All parties, all governments are doing it. And it's become a tit for tat. That is what is scary. It's spreading like a rash all across. That let's punish those who speak against us. And if you've booked 10, I'll book 20. Just last word for me, Mr. Nigam, and then I must wrap.
Tamanna, in fact, I don't agree with the pessimism of Mr. Hegde. He is otherwise quite active everywhere and uses his democratic rights to the fullest potential. And despite so much of pessimism, social media is, growing like phenomenally, and people are using it. There are isolated incidents, but compared to the freedom that you have on social media and the amount of transactions and the messages which are being posted, there are billions and billions, and there is no restriction of any kind. Despite, they are against the law, but some of them, yes, they are caught, and some of them are misused. But social media is here to stay and grow, and they are there to self-regulate. The government is also suggesting them through ethics rules of 2021. Soft regulation to have
that is true, but that is not what we're discussing today, frankly. We're not talking about social media self-regulation. We're talking about using the powers of the state to suppress voices on social media and otherwise, and what is going to be the impact on future generations. That is a question to ponder and something which perhaps needs attention from all lawmakers across party lines. I will have to close the discussion here, but thank you so much, Mr. Nigam, Mr. Hegde, for joining us this evening on Beyond the Headlines.